Shabbat Shalom. Quick question, no single right answer. How do Jews pray? Silence in a group. I hear, well, it doesn't have to be in a group. From a Siddur. Anything else? Anywhere they happen to be. Often. Some would say seldom. Some would say never. Depending on which Jews we're talking about. So, from the multitude of answers, none of which are right or wrong, we have an ever more complex, with each answer we heard, an ever more complex sense of how do Jews pray. Rabbi Heschel, Abraham Joshua Heschel, was famous for speaking, referring to his march in Selma, Alabama, with Dr. King, about praying with my feet, about being there on Shabbat instead of being in shul. And that was his prayer, in which case his prayer wasn't necessarily from here, which is how many or most of us might associate prayer. I heard someone saying anywhere. Well, technically not. Theoretically, there is a prayer that we are required to say every time we go to the bathroom. Thank you, God, for making my body work as it's supposed to work. However, we don't recite the prayer in the bathroom. We don't bring prayer into the bathroom. We only recite it after we have left the bathroom. So anywhere, well, not exactly, but I get the sense. I get the sentiment behind it. And the notion of anywhere, Cindy, I'm assuming that amongst other things you're referring to, yes, in here, but also out of here. We don't have to be in a synagogue, in a dedicated prayer space in order to pray. We could be praying at home. We could be offering prayers as they come into our hearts spontaneously. What I was thinking of is that the mystics of Tzfat, who incorporated Kabbalat Shabbat into our liturgy, there is the joyful receiving of Shabbat. It said that as the sun began to set and they would welcome Shabbat, that they would leave the synagogue and go out into the orchard. And they would count, number one, it's alleged, well, they were counting the stars to see that that night had fallen and that it was ready. On the other hand, the orchard, Pardes in Hebrew, is a classic mystical image for paradise, for a sense of the world to come, that they were so filled with joy on Kabbalat Shabbat that it lifted them into the world to come. Last Shabbat, I was on vacation at the beach. And for me, it's a very joyful experience to welcome Shabbat on the beach. Rachel HaMeshoreret, Rachel, the poetess, in early modern state of Israel history, authored a gorgeous song, Eli, Eli, my God, who never ends, who is infinite. My God, who is in Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam. Eli, my God, who is infinite. The sand on the sea, the crashing of the waves on the beach, and she evokes these symbols. And this song has in modern Jewish life in itself become a sense of prayer, a prayer of its own. It doesn't appear in here, certainly, being composed, I'm not sure exactly when, in the 1940s or 50s, but the sense of associating God with nature and its association with the modern state of Israel has indeed become a modern prayer. It's one of my favorite places to welcome Shabbat. One of, but not my absolute favorite. My absolute favorite place to welcome Shabbat is in Jerusalem. Because there's nothing else like it. And I feel quite teary as I say this, but yesterday afternoon, I got a video call from my son who spent his first Shabbat of his life in Jerusalem on this Shabbat. And he called me to say, Abba, look where I am. I called to say Shabbat Shalom. And the sense of him having that experience, which is always, since the first time I ever had that experience myself, at his age, he's 17, experiencing Shabbat in Jerusalem for the first time ever. I wasn't there to experience it with him. I'm not the organizers of the program. But for me, it felt like that is my parenting role fulfilled. I have given him, brought him to the point of having what feels like one of the ultimate Jewish experiences that one could possibly ever have. And now he's reached that point himself. What else could I ever hope to achieve for him as a parent that could possibly top that? So, for those of you who might know, Eli is on a program with Camp Ramah. He's now aged out of going to summer camp. And Camp Ramah takes all of the kids in this age group, their first year after camp, from all the different Ramahs across this country and Canada, and they put them in a single group and take them and offer them the opportunity of going to Israel this summer after their last camp. And Eli is on that camp, is on that experience. It's known as Ramah Seminar in Israel. He's with, I think there are about 175 other kids. The group is smaller this year than usual, understandably. When we've told some people who do not relate to Israel as we do, where's Eli this summer? Is he at camp? No, we've sent him to Israel. And you should see the look in their eyes when it dawns on them that for a summer experience we've sent our teenager to a war zone, and they think we're crazy. For us, we didn't second guess it for a moment, not for a moment, knowing that the seminar has made adjustments to its itinerary. They're not traveling as they usually do. They're not going to the north. They're not experiencing these parts of Israel. It's not safe. And so this year's experience is much more Jerusalem-based. Who's to complain about that? But of course, for first-timers to Israel, that they won't get as expansive an experience. We get a weekly update from the director of the program, a fantastic person with whom Rachel and I had a lot of discussion before Eli left for the program. His name is Jonathan Madoff. He's American living in Israel, running this the Ramah in Israel experience. And he sent us an email this week. He sent an email to all parents with kids on the program. One day this week, I forgot what day. Shalom Seminar Mishpachot. Shalom Seminar families. Greetings from the city of gold, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. The song Al Kol Ele begins with the line Al Hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, which translates to for the sweet honey and the sting of a bee. This week the teens got to see what this really means in Israel during this complicated period. Monday morning, the teens had the honor of hearing Rachel Goldberg, the mother of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who has been held hostage in Gaza for the past 278 days. Today it's 282. And I put this out there for you today. There's an article written by the Times of Israel about Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and at the back is an interesting photograph that I took the liberty of adding to the article. Sidonia Rottenberg-Schwartz, one of the seminar participants who attended Ramah in the Poconos, reflected on the time Rachel so graciously gave to speak to our teens. Rachel, photographed above, is sitting in the front row on the right-hand side of the picture. And this is what the young teen who attended Ramah in the Poconos back when she was still at Camp wrote. Yesterday morning, Rachel Goldberg spoke to us about the hostage crisis, but more specifically about her son Hirsch. We were all nervous to meet with her because we weren't sure how to handle such a heavy situation from someone so personally affected. It was especially striking that Rachel immediately started her talk with a joke or two to make us feel more comfortable. Here was the mother of a teenager writing. Here was the mother of a child held hostage for 9 months, and she was taking the time to ease the nerves of a room full of teenagers she had never met. Rachel told us about how she starts her day with prayer, with the Modeh Ani Tfilah in the feminine for herself, instead of Modeh Ani, Modah Ani. And then she repeats it in the masculine Modeh Ani for Hirsch. What she emphasized, and therefore what I want to emphasize, was the importance of humanizing each individual hostage. Rachel started to tell us details about Hirsch's passions and his plans in life, like the world trip he was planning to take, or the fact that he went on a 9-week backpacking trip without a single friend because he wanted to be able to meet new people. There were a few specific things she highlighted for us to continue to do to empower the names of the hostages. Rachel told us that she talks to Hirsch throughout the day, through prayers, and tells him to stay strong. In talking to Hirsch, she hopes he can feel her conviction and dreams for his future. She mentioned that we should all connect to the hostages through our own methods of tefillah, of prayer. She told us that she knows Hirsch will be fine because he embodies respect, or kavod in Hebrew. And if you have kavod, you will live a strong life. Rachel's hopeful attitude and optimistic vocabulary were extremely powerful. She repeatedly said that hopefully there won't be a need for a conversation in the coming days because Hirsch would be home tomorrow. As we experience Israel together, we will find ways to talk to each of the hostages and encourage them to stay strong, and will continue to pray each day for all of the hostages' safe return home. Jonathan Madoff continues, Sidonia's words perfectly encapsulate how we all felt about Rachel speaking with us. hopefully the next time we see Rachel, she will be alongside her. This is the bee sting of living in Israel right now. I shared Sidonia's words with Rachel, to which she replied, "You can't imagine how helpful, supportive, and empowering it is for us to get messages like this, especially from young people. It helps us to breathe in our world without air." If you haven't been to Israel and you have the means to make it happen, do it for yourself, do it for your family, as a sign of what your values are. Do it for the people of Israel, so that they should see you and hear you and know that you are there with them, especially at this time, which will help them know that not only are you with them for however long your trip will be in Israel, but even after your return, you will continue to be with them. Shabbat Shalom. One last point. Sorry, I forgot to add this. The excerpt that I read was from another teen, not my own child. How do I know that this affected my child? Because he said to me, "Abba, after the talk, we went back to our rooms, and it was all that we could talk about." Has it had an impact on him? Has it touched his life? Has it moved his spirit? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Page 184.